The first thing you notice about Club Aurora after midnight isn't the music. It's the weight of who's listening to it. The bass thrummed through the soles of my worn sneakers, a physical presence that made the crystal glasses on my tray tremble. Laughter echoed off marble walls. Conversations wove through expensive cologne and even more expensive lies. I moved through it all like smoke, present but unnoticed, exactly how I'd survived the last 3 years. My name is Jiho. I'm 23, an omega in a city that pretends we don't exist unless we're useful, and this velvet-draped trap in Gangnam has been my world since I aged out of the group home. I pour $1,000 whiskey for men whose smiles promise violence. I serve champagne to alphas whose eyes slide over me like I'm furniture. Invisible. That's the only safety I've ever known. Tonight, the weight felt different, heavier. It started when they walked in. The crowd didn't part, it simply rearranged. Itself, bodies instinctively yielding to a force they couldn't name. 4 of them, all tall, all dangerous, all moving with the kind of synchronized grace that spoke of pack bonds most alphas never achieve. I didn't need the sudden hush to know who they were. Everyone in Seoul knew the Choi pack. The eldest Minho led them, built like he'd been carved from mountain stone. Dark hair swept back, a suit that probably cost more than my year's rent. Late 20s, maybe 28. His presence was gravitational. Beside him, Hyunwoo, leaner, sharp-featured, with silver rings on every finger and eyes that cataloged exits before beauty. The pack's strategist. 27, all cold calculation wrapped in Armani. Then Yamin and Seojun, the youngest two. Both 27, both terrifyingly different. Jamin moved like water, all fluid grace and dangerous smiles. Seojun was stillness itself, quiet in a way that made you forget he was there until you needed to remember. They owned half the tech sector, a quarter of the real estate in Gangnam, and all the fear in this room. I dropped my gaze. Rule 1, don't look predators in the eye. They settled into the private booth in the back, the one that cost more to reserve than most people earned in a month. But Minho didn't sit. He detached from his pack and walked toward the bar. Toward me. Every instinct I possessed screamed. I focused on polishing an already spotless glass, my hands steady through sheer willpower. The routine motion was an anchor. Don't look up. Don't attract attention. Be the ghost. 4 glasses. Johnny Walker. Blue label. Neat. His voice bypassed my ears and resonated somewhere in my chest. Deep, controlled, absolutely certain it would be obeyed. I nodded, not trusting my voice, and turned to reach for the iconic blue bottle. That's when I saw him. Junho, junior manager, slick back hair, expensive watch that didn't match his salary, and a smile that had always made my skin crawl. He slid up beside Minho with too much eagerness, too much performance. Mr. Choi, what an honor. Junho's voice pitched too loud. Please allow me. Before I could react, he reached over the bar, took the 4 glasses I'd just prepared, and arranged them on a tray. Then, with a flourish that made my blood ice over, he produced a small bottle from his jacket pocket. A gift, Junho said, his voice dropping into that conspiratorial tone I'd heard before. In other cities, other lives. From our new partnership, premium enhancement, just a drop each. It'll make the evening unforgettable. He unscrewed the cap and tipped clear liquid into each glass. It vanished without a trace, invisible as poison usually is. My breath stopped. Every survival instinct I'd honed since childhood detonated at once. The eager posture, the intercepted drinks, the 2 bright eyes and trembling hands, the unmarked bottle from his pocket. This was a hit. Clean, professional, fatal. And something else flickered at the edge of my consciousness. A gift I'd spent years hiding, pretending didn't exist. The whisper of intent, malicious and sharp, bleeding off Junho like smoke. They need to die. All 4. Tonight. Telepathy. My curse. My secret. The reason I'd learned to be invisible. Minho reached for the first glass. Time didn't slow. It shattered. My father's face flashed in my mind. His last words before the accident that wasn't. Don't ever get involved, Jiho. You see something. You look away. You survive. but looking away was how I ended up at his funeral. My hand moved before my brain could catch up. I grabbed a cocktail napkin, fingers trembling, and scrawled 5 words with the pen I kept in my apron. Don't drink it. Smile and leave now. I slid it across the polished wood. It stopped right beside Minho's hand, still reaching for the poisoned glass. I didn't look at him. I just turned and busied myself with the sink. My entire body braced for the explosion, for the knife in the dark, for whatever came next. The silence behind me stretched taut, lethal. I felt Minho's gaze shift from the napkin to me, felt Hyunwoo's attention snap like a rifle scope zeroing in, felt Jaemin and Seojin's focus sharpen from across the room. Then movement, not away from the glasses, toward me. A hand, large, warm, absolutely controlled, wrapped around my wrist. Not brutal, not gentle, unbreakable. My head snapped up. Minho's eyes were dark fire, burning into mine with an intensity that stripped away every shield I'd ever built. He wasn't angry. He was seeing me. All of me. Why? He murmured, his voice pitched only for me, his thumb pressing against the frantic pulse in my wrist. Would I do that, little ghost? The other 3 had already moved, flanking us, forming a wall between the rest of the club and this moment. They hadn't drunk the poison. They hadn't left. They'd grabbed me instead. And I knew, with terrifying certainty, that my life of invisibility was over. My pulse hammered so hard I was sure he could feel it under his thumb. The club's noise faded to static, distant, irrelevant. The world narrowed to the points of contact, his hand on my wrist, the cold bar under my other palm, and those 4 pairs of eyes locked on me like I was the only thing in the room worth looking at. Not a great feeling when you've spent 3 years perfecting the art of not being looked at. My voice came out rough. I cleared my throat, tried again. I don't know what you mean. The lie was transparent. We both knew it. Minho's grip didn't tighten, but it didn't loosen either. A statement of control, effortless and absolute. His head tilted slightly, studying me the way you'd study a puzzle that didn't make sense yet, but would be satisfying to solve. The note, he said, still low, still private. Despite the 3 alphas now forming a wall of expensive suits between us and the rest of the club. Explain. He hadn't acknowledged Junho, hadn't looked at the glasses. His entire focus was on me, and it was more terrifying than any overt threat. I could feel Junho's panic spiking behind Minho, a psychic shriek of wrong, wrong, wrong that made my teeth ache. His thoughts were a mess of half-formed exit strategies and frantic prayers that I was just some crazy Omega who'd lost it. Sorry, buddy, I'm crazy, but I'm not wrong. Mr. Choi, is there a problem? Junho's voice cracked on the last word, his professional veneer shattering. The gift is leave. One word. Minho didn't raise his voice, didn't even look away from me. But the command dropped into the space like a stone into still water, and the ripples were immediate. Hyunwoo shifted, his silver rings catching the light as his hand moved to his jacket. Sojun took a single step toward Junho, silent as death. Jamin's smile sharpened into something that had nothing to do with humor. Junho went pale. He opened his mouth, closed it, then turned and disappeared into the crowd so fast he nearly tripped over his own feet. We were alone. Well, alone in a crowded club, surrounded by a pack of alphas who could probably kill me 17 different ways without breaking a sweat. Great. This was going great. You have 5 seconds, Minho said, and his thumb stroked once, slowly, over my pulse point. The gesture was intimate, possessive, absolutely chilling. Who are you? Jiho. The name slipped out before I could think better of it. I just work here. That is not who you are. That is where you are. He leaned closer, and I caught the scent of him. Cedar and something darker, something that made my hindbrain sit up and pay attention in ways I really didn't appreciate. You saw something. You acted. People who just work here don't do that. They look away. He was right. Damn him, he was right. So I'll ask again. His voice dropped even lower. Who are you and what did you see? The truth felt like swallowing glass, but lying now would be worse. I could feel it in the way he watched me. in the predatory stillness of the three alphas behind him. These weren't men who tolerated deception. The bottle, I breathed out, my free hand clenching against the bar. It wasn't right. He was too eager. He intercepted drinks he didn't order for you. That's not hospitality. That's setup. Minho's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Interest. Calculation. A setup, he repeated, tasting the words. You seem familiar with the concept. Because I was. Because I'd watched my father's business partner do the same thing 6 years ago, right before Dad's car went off a bridge. Because I'd learned to read tells the way other people learn to read. Books as a survival skill, not a hobby. But I wasn't about to explain that to a man who could make me disappear with a phone call. I pay attention, I said instead, which was true enough. It's part of the job. Behind Minho, Hyunwoo made a soft sound that might have been amusement. Jaemin tilted his head, studying me with unnerving focus. Seojun remained perfectly still, but his gaze hadn't left my face. Hyung, Hyunwoo said, his voice like silk over steel. We should move this conversation somewhere more private. Minho finally released my wrist. The skin tingled, already feeling the ghost of his touch. He picked up the napkin I'd written on, folded it with one hand, and tucked it into his inner jacket pocket like it was something precious. The gesture felt final, like a contract being sealed. You're coming with us. Not a question, a decree. My brain stuttered. I can't. My shift isn't... Your shift, Minho interrupted, his tone leaving no room for argument, is over. Permanently. You don't work here anymore. What? I started, but Jaemin was already moving, smooth as water, disappearing toward the back. Probably to talk to management. Probably to make sure I couldn't come back even if I wanted to. Get your things, Minho said, stepping back just enough to give me space, but not enough to suggest I had a choice. Now. I looked past him, at Seojun and Hyunwoo. Seojun's expression was unreadable. Hyunwoo raised one eyebrow, his silver rings catching light as he gestured toward the staff door. Go, his posture said. Or we'll carry you. I could run. The staff exit led to an alley. I knew every back street in this part of Gangnam. I could disappear, but I looked at Minho's eyes and knew, with sinking certainty, that running would be the last mistake I ever made. He would find me, and he would not be gentle a second time. Besides, I caught the edge of Yunho's thoughts. From somewhere across the club, a poisonous cocktail of rage and fear, and the desperate need to report failure to whoever had hired him. If I stayed here, I was dead anyway. I pulled off my apron, tossed it on the bar, and met Minho's gaze with more confidence than I felt. Fine, I said, but if you're kidnapping me, you're at least buying me dinner first. Hyunwoo actually laughed. Minho's lips twitched. It wasn't quite a smile, but it was close enough to make my stomach do something complicated. Noted, he said, then turned and walked toward the exit like he owned the building. He probably did. Hyunwoo gestured for me to follow, his silver rings glinting as he made a sweeping after you motion that would have been polite if it wasn't clearly a command. Seojun fell into step behind me, close enough that I could feel his presence like a shadow I couldn't shake. The staff locker room was exactly where I'd left it 20 minutes ago, but it felt like a lifetime. Fluorescent lights, chipped tile, the faint smell of cheap body spray and bleach. I grabbed my bag from my locker, shoving my phone and keys inside with shaking hands. My coworker Min-seok was changing out of his server uniform, his eyes going wide when he saw me flanked by two extremely expensive-looking alphas. Jiho, you okay? He looked between me and Seojun like he was trying to solve an equation that didn't add up. Yeah, I lied, slinging my bag over my shoulder. Just leaving early. Not feeling well. Did something happen with the VIP section? Min-seok's gaze lingered on Hyunwoo, who was leaning against the door frame, like a model in a cologne ad. Everyone's talking about the Choi pack being here. Nothing I can't handle. Another lie. I was on a roll tonight. I pushed past Hyunwoo into the hallway, half expecting them to stop me, but they just followed. Silent, watchful, herding me like wolves with a particularly stubborn rabbit. We emerged into a back alley that smelled like rain and garbage. The cool Seoul night air hit my face, and for half a second I considered bolting. Then I saw the car. A black Genesis GV80 sat purring at the curb, all sleek lines and tinted windows. Jemin stood beside the rear door, having materialized from wherever he'd gone. When he saw me, his smile softened into something almost kind. "Don't worry," he said, reading my expression with unnerving accuracy. "We don't bite on the first date." "Good to know," I muttered. "What about the second?" His smile widened. "Depends on how nicely you ask." Oh, he was dangerous. The fun kind of dangerous that made bad decisions feel like good ideas. Minho appeared from the driver's side, his jacket now draped over one arm. "Get in." There it was again. Not a request, just certainty that I would obey. The weird thing, part of me wanted to. The part that was so bone-tired of looking over my shoulder, of reading hostile intent in every corner, of being invisible and alone. But I'd learned a long time ago that wanting something didn't make it safe. Still, the alternative was going back to my shoebox apartment with its broken lock and waiting for Junho's employers to find me. I climbed into the car. The interior smelled like leather and expensive cologne. Minho slid in beside me, his frame taking up more space than seemed physically possible. Jamin took the passenger seat. Hyunwoo and Seojin got into a second identical car that pulled up behind us. The door closed with a soft, final click. We pulled away from the curb, leaving my old life in the rearview mirror. For a long moment, nobody spoke. I stared out the tinted window, watching Gangnam's neon lights blur past. My heart was still hammering, but my hands had stopped shaking. "Where are you taking me?" I asked, aiming for calm and landing somewhere near resigned. "Somewhere secure," Minho replied, not looking at me. He was typing something on his phone, his thumbs moving with practiced efficiency. "Somewhere we can talk without interruption." "I told you what I saw." "That's the beginning of what you know." He finally turned his head, and those dark eyes pinned me in place. "You recognized a setup. You risked exposure for strangers. That's not normal bartender behavior, Jiho." Hearing my name in his voice did something to my spine, made it want to straighten and melt at the same time. "Maybe I'm just civic-minded," I said. Jamin snorted from the front seat. "Civic-minded people call the police. They don't write cryptic notes and then sass their way through a kidnapping." "Is this a kidnapping?" I looked at Minho. "Because if it is, you're doing it wrong. Kidnappers usually don't let their victims keep their phones." "Check your phone," Minho said. I pulled it out. No signal, of course. "We have a jammer in the vehicle," he explained. Like that was a totally normal thing to have. "Temporary measure. Your phone will work again once we arrive." "And where is arrive exactly?" "My home." 2 words. They shouldn't have sounded like a promise and a threat at the same time. But they did. I was going to the Choi Pak's den. Voluntarily. Because the alternative was dying in an alley somewhere when Yoonho's people came looking for loose ends. The car climbed into the hills above Gangnam, where the buildings got taller and the spaces between them got wider. Old money, new power. The kind of neighborhood where you needed 3 security clearances just to breathe the air. We pulled into an underground garage that looked like it belonged in a spy movie. Concrete, shadows, a handful of vehicles that cost more than I'd earn in 10 lifetimes. The second car pulled in behind us. Hyunwoo and Seojun emerged, their movements synchronized in that eerie pack way. "This way," Minho said, leading us to a private elevator that required both a key card and a fingerprint scan. I stepped inside. The doors closed. The elevator rose. My stomach dropped. I was trapped in a moving box with 4 apex predators who had just decided I was interesting. "So," I said, because silence made me nervous and my mouth had never learned when to quit. "Do you guys do this often? The whole rescue and relocate thing? Because I've got to say, your bedside manner could use work." Seojin made a sound that might have been a laugh. Hyunwoo smiled. "We're working on it." The elevator opened directly into a penthouse that stole the breath from my lungs. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Seoul's glittering skyline. Modern furniture, minimalist art. Everything screamed power and money and control. It was beautiful. It was a cage. And I had just walked into it willingly. Minho shrugged off his jacket, draping it over a chair. "You'll stay here tonight. Tomorrow we'll discuss next steps. Next steps, I repeated. You mean like returning me to my normal life? His silence was answer enough. I was in so much trouble. Define so much, Jamin said, appearing at my elbow with a glass of water I hadn't asked for. Because from where I'm standing, you just upgraded from a closet in Itaewon to a penthouse in Hanamdong. I took the water because my throat was dry, not because he was right. I also upgraded from employed to unemployed and free to whatever this is. Protected, Seojin said. His voice was quiet, but it carried weight. He'd moved to the window, hands in his pockets, watching the city below, like he was counting exits, even 30 floors up. Protected, I repeated, letting the words sit on my tongue. Is that what we're calling it? Minho crossed to a bar cart that probably cost more than my entire apartment and poured himself 2 fingers of something amber. He didn't offer me any. You interfered in an assassination attempt. That makes you a witness. Witnesses tend to have short lifespans when people like Junho are involved. People like Junho are usually middle management, I shot back. He's not the one I'm worried about. Hyunwoo's eyebrows rose. He'd settled onto a leather sofa, long legs crossed, silver rings catching light as he steepled his fingers. Smart. So you understand the problem. I understand that whoever hired him to poison you is now aware that I know about it. I set the water down on a glass table that was probably worth more than I was, which means I'm a loose end, which means I'm dead the second I step outside this building. Not dead, Minho corrected. We wouldn't allow it. The casual certainty in his voice made something in my chest twist, like he'd already decided I was his to protect, his to keep, and my opinion on the matter was optional. How generous, I muttered. It is, actually. Jamin sat on the arm of Hyunwoo's sofa, his smile sharp. Most people don't get to negotiate their protective custody terms. I wasn't aware we were negotiating. We're not. Minho took a sip of his drink, his gaze never leaving mine. But I am curious. How did you know? There it was. The question I'd been dreading. I could lie, should lie. Telepathy wasn't something you admitted to people who could make you disappear, especially not alphas with the kind of power the Choi pack wielded. But Minho was watching me with those dark, assessing eyes, and I had the uncomfortable feeling that he'd know if I lied. Pattern recognition, I said, which was true enough. I've seen this play before. Eager middle manager, unsolicited gift, intercepted drinks. It's textbook. Where? Seojin asked from the window. Where have you seen it before? Damn, of course he'd catch that. My father worked import-export, I said, the old cover story slipping out automatically. He had business partners. Some of them smiled with their mouths but not their eyes. I learned to read the tells. Past tense, Hyunwoo noted. Your father. Dead. The word came out flat. Final. His business partner saw to that. The room went quiet. Not uncomfortable, just present. Like they were all absorbing that piece of information and filing it away. I'm sorry, Jamin said, and he actually sounded like he meant it. I shrugged, uncomfortable with the sympathy. It was 6 years ago. I've moved on. Have you? Minho's voice was soft, but the question cut deep. I looked away, focusing on the city lights beyond the window. I'm still breathing. That's moved on enough. Another silence. Then Minho set his glass down with a soft click. You'll stay here tonight. Tomorrow we'll discuss long-term arrangements. Long-term? I laughed, but it sounded hollow even to me. You're planning to keep me prisoner indefinitely? Guest, he corrected. You're a guest. Guests can leave. So can you, once the threat is neutralized. And how long will that take? He didn't answer, which was an answer in itself. I was so screwed. There's a guest room down the hall, Jamin said, standing and gesturing toward a corridor I hadn't noticed. Second door on the left. Bathroom's attached. There should be clothes in your size in the closet. I stared at him. How? We called ahead while you were getting your things. His smile was unrepentant. We're efficient. You're terrifying. That too. Sojin finally turned from the window. You should rest. It's been a long night. It had been. My feet hurt. My head hurt. My entire concept of reality hurt. But I wasn't about to show weakness in front of 4 alphas who were already looking. at me like I was a problem to be solved. Fine, I said, picking up my bag, but for the record, I'm not agreeing to anything except sleeping in a bed that's not mine. Noted, Minho said, and there was that almost smile again. I headed down the hallway, hyper aware of their eyes on my back. The guest room was exactly as advertised. King-size bed, attached bathroom, and a walk-in closet that had somehow been stocked with clothes in my exact size. I sat on the edge of the bed, my bag still slung over my shoulder. My phone buzzed. Signal was back. 7 missed calls from Minseok. 3 texts asking if I was okay. 1 from my landlord about next month's rent. I typed out a quick reply to Minseok. All good. Took a better job opportunity. We'll explain later. Another lie to add to the collection. I set the phone on the nightstand and stared at the ceiling. Somewhere in the penthouse, I could hear low voices. The Choi pack discussing their newest problem. Me. I closed my eyes and reached out with the sense I'd spent years suppressing. 4 minds, sharp and controlled. Minho's was a fortress, all strategy and calculated risk. Hyunwoo's buzzed with analysis, running scenarios. Jaemin's was quicksilver, darting between humor and concern. Seojun's was still water, deep and watchful, and beneath it all a thread of something I hadn't expected. Curiosity, interest, attraction. Oh no. I yanked my mental shields back up so fast my head spun. This was bad. This was so much worse than I thought. Because the Choi pack wasn't just protecting me, they were keeping me. And the scariest part? I wasn't sure I wanted to run anymore. A knock at the door made me jolt upright. Jiho, Jaemin's voice soft through the wood. Can I come in? I could have said no, should have said no. Instead, I heard myself say, it's your house. The door opened. Jaemin slipped inside carrying a tray with actual food on it. The smell hit me first. Beef broth, rice, kimchi. My stomach betrayed me with an audible growl. His smile was gentle. Thought you might be hungry. You said something about dinner. I was being sarcastic. I know. He set the tray on the desk by the window. But you should still eat. I didn't move from the bed. Is this the part where you drug me? Because I've got to tell you, my trust issues are already at peak capacity tonight. No drugs. He raised his hands in mock surrender. Just Jjigae. Seojun made it. He stress cooks. That was so unexpectedly normal that I actually laughed. Your pack's enforcer stress cooks? Everyone needs a hobby. Jamin settled into the desk chair, leaving space between us, giving me room to breathe. His just happens to involve knives and vegetables instead of people. Comforting. I thought so. I eyed the food. It did smell incredible. And I hadn't eaten since my break at the club, which felt like 3 lifetimes ago. Fine. I stood, crossing to the desk. But I'm eating this under protest. Your protest is noted and ignored. The first spoonful of broth was heaven. Rich, warm, perfectly seasoned. I tried not to moan, failed, and caught Yamin's knowing smirk. Shut up, I muttered around another mouthful. Didn't say anything. We sat in comfortable silence while I ate. Well, comfortable for him. I was hyper-aware of his presence, of the way he watched me without making it creepy, of the easy grace and how he occupied space. Can I ask you something? He said after a moment. You're going to anyway. Fair. His smile flickered. Why didn't you run? In the alley. You could have bolted. You're fast, I could tell. But you got in the car. I set down my spoon. You want the honest answer or the one that makes me sound less pathetic? Honest. Because I'm tired. The admission slipped out before I could stop it. I'm tired of running. Tired of looking over my shoulder. Tired of being alone. And yeah, maybe you're all terrifying alpha kingpins who could snap me like a twig. But at least you're terrifying in a direction I can see. Something shifted in his expression, softened. You're not pathetic, he said quietly. You're a survivor. There's a difference. Is there? Yeah. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Survivors make hard choices. They do what they have to do. That's not pathetic. That's strong. I looked away, uncomfortable with the earnestness in his voice. Pretty words from someone who's never had to survive anything. You'd be surprised. The way he said it made me look back. There was something in his eyes, some old pain he'd learned to smile around. Jae-min. Minho's voice from the doorway made us both turn. He stood there, still in his dress shirt, but with the sleeves rolled up, now looking unfairly good for someone who just survived an assassination attempt. Let him eat in peace. We were just talking, Hyung. I'm aware. Minho's gaze slid to me. When you're finished, I need you in the study. We've located Junho. My appetite vanished. Where? Dead. He said it like he was commenting on the weather. Apparent suicide. His apartment. Very clean. Very professional. The room tilted slightly. I gripped the edge of the desk. That was fast, I managed. Too fast, Hyunwoo said, appearing behind Minho. Of course he was there. They moved like a unit, these four, which means whoever hired him is cleaning up loose ends. And you, Jiho, are officially the loosest end left. Great. I pushed the tray away, my stomach churning. So I'm not just a witness. I'm a target. You were always a target, Minho said, the moment you slid that note across the bar. But now we have confirmation. How reassuring. Seojin materialized in the hallway behind the others. How did they all just appear like that? We've increased perimeter security. No one gets in or out without biometric clearance. So I'm definitely a prisoner now. You're protected, Minho corrected. Again, like if he said it enough times, I'd believe it. Come. He turned, expecting me to follow. We need to go over everything you remember about tonight. Every detail, no matter how small. I looked at Jaemin. He gave me an encouraging nod. With a sigh, I stood and followed Minho down the hall. The others fell into step around me, a moving wall of expensive suits and lethal grace. The study was all dark wood and leather, designed for secrets and power plays. Minho gestured to a chair across from his desk. I sat. They arranged themselves around the room. Hyunwoo perched on the desk's edge, Jamin leaning against a bookshelf, Seojun by the door like a sentinel. Start from the beginning, Minho said. When did you first notice Junho acting unusual? I closed my eyes, pulling up the memory. He came in through the staff entrance around 10:30. That was weird. He usually makes a show of walking through the front. Good, what else? He was agitated, kept checking his phone. When you arrived, he changed. Got focused, eager. The bottle, Hyunwoo prompted. Describe it. Small, unmarked, clear liquid. He pulled it from his inside jacket pocket, left side. Minho typed something on his phone. Security footage confirms that. Continue. For the next 20 minutes, they pulled every detail from my memory. What Junho wore, how he moved, who else he'd interacted with. By the time they were done, my head was pounding. You're very observant, Seojin noted. Unusually so. My breath caught. Careful, Jiho. I've had practice, I said, keeping my voice light. Bartenders are professional people watchers. Perhaps. Minho's eyes were too sharp, too knowing. Or perhaps you're more than you appear to be. The air in the room changed, charged. He knew, or suspected. Either way, I was in trouble. I'm exactly what I appear to be, I lied. A broke Omega who made a stupid choice and is now paying for it. Liar. The word was soft, final. Minho stood, circling the desk with predatory grace. He stopped in front of me, close enough that I had to tilt my head back to meet his eyes. You're hiding something, he murmured. I can feel it. My heart hammered. Everyone's hiding something. True. His hand came up, fingers gentle as they tilted my chin higher. But your secrets might be the key to keeping all of us alive. So I'll ask one more time, Jiho. What aren't you telling me? His touch burned, his scent wrapped around me, and I made a choice. I can read minds. The silence that followed was deafening. Minho's hand didn't move from my chin. His expression didn't change. But something flickered in his eyes. Surprise, calculation, and something that looked almost like vindication. Telepathy, he said. Not a question, a confirmation. Telepathy, I agreed, my voice steadier than I felt. I knew Junho was planning to kill you because I heard him thinking it, loud and clear, like he was screaming it directly into my brain. Jaemin pushed off the bookshelf. Holy shit. That's one way to put it, I muttered. Hyunwoo's expression had gone sharp with interest. How long have you had this ability? Since I was 14, puberty hit, and suddenly everyone's thoughts were my thoughts. It was hell for about 2 years before I learned to block most of it out. Most of it, Seojun repeated, his quiet voice cutting through. Not all. Not all, I confirmed. Strong emotions bleed through. Intense intentions. Violent thoughts especially. Those are like alarm bells. I can't not hear them. Minho finally released my chin, but he didn't step back. That's how you knew about the poison? You didn't just see the setup. You felt his intent. Felt it, heard it, whatever you want to call it. His mind was screaming murder. I rubbed my temples, the phantom echo of Junho's thoughts still making my head ache. He wanted all four of you dead, tonight. No hesitation, no remorse. Just cold, calculated elimination. Can you read us? Jamin asked, his curiosity overriding any fear. Right now? I looked at him, really looked. Then I dropped my shields just enough to catch the surface thoughts. This explains so much. The way he flinched when Minho touched him. How he knew exactly when to act. God, he must be terrified. I slammed the shields back up, my cheeks heating. Yes, but I try not to. It's invasive. Violating. I don't do it. Unless I have to. An ethical telepath, Hyunwoo mused. How refreshing. Mock me all you want. It doesn't change the fact that this thing in my head has made my life a living nightmare. Do you know what it's like to hear every cruel thought, every violent impulse, every lie someone's about to tell you before it leaves their mouth? My voice cracked on the last word. I hated that it did. Hated the vulnerability bleeding through. But the truth was already out there. Might as well go all in. It's why I work nights, I continued. Drunk people's thoughts are easier to block. They're fuzzy, unfocused, and why I stay invisible. The more people notice me, the more their thoughts press in. It's suffocating. Minho's expression had softened, just slightly. And your father? Figured it out when I was 16. Tried to use it. Wanted me to read his competitors, his partners, anyone who might be a threat. The old bitterness rose in my throat. I refused. He pushed. I ran. 3 months later, his business partner killed him. I heard that man planning it from across the city, but by the time I got there, it was too late. The room had gone still. Even Yamin's usual brightness had dimmed. I'm sorry, Minho said, and he meant it. I could feel the sincerity radiating from him, even without dropping my shields. Yeah, me too. I stood, needing to move, to do something other than sit there with 4 alphas staring at me like I was some kind of science experiment. So now you know, I'm a freak with a useful party trick. You can either use me like everyone else tries to, or you can let me go and pretend this never happened. Neither, Minho said. I turned. Excuse me? We're not using you, and we're certainly not letting you go. He moved closer, and this time I didn't back away. You just became the most valuable asset we have, Jiho. And I don't mean that in a transactional way. Could have fooled me. What he means, Yemen interjected, shooting Minho a look, is that you're not alone anymore. You don't have to carry this by yourself. I've been carrying it by myself for 9 years. I'm used to it. You shouldn't have to be used to it, Seojin said quietly. No one should. The gentleness in his voice nearly undid me. I swallowed hard, forcing down the emotion threatening to claw its way up my throat. This doesn't change anything, I said. I'm still a liability, still a target. Your enemies will want me dead whether I can read minds or not. Then we'll keep you alive. Minho's certainty was absolute. And you'll help us find whoever ordered the hit. I laughed, but it sounded hollow. Just like that? You're not afraid of what I might see in your heads? Terrified, Hyunwoo admitted with a slight smile. But fear is useful, keeps us honest. We have nothing to hide from you, Minho added. Read us if you need to. We won't stop you. The offer hung in the air, genuine and terrifying. I could do it, could drop every shield and dive into their minds, see every secret, every dark corner, every truth they'd never speak aloud. But I didn't. I'll help you find your enemy, I said instead. But I'm not reading you, any of you, not unless you give explicit permission first. Those are my terms. Minho extended his hand. Deal. I stared at it. at the calluses on his palm, the strength in his fingers, the steadiness of his offer. Then I took it. His hand was warm, solid, real. "There's one more thing, Asaomaon," I said, because apparently tonight was full confessions. "Junho's employers, whoever they know about me now. They saw you take me. If they're smart, they'll assume I told you something, which means they'll come for me." "Let them try," Jamin said, and his smile turned sharp. "We'll be ready. You don't understand. These people don't play games. They'll—" "Neither do we," Minho interrupted. His grip on my hand tightened slightly. "You're under our protection now. That means something. It means everything." The weight of pack bond pressed against my senses, even through my shields. These four weren't just allies. They were bonded on a level most alphas never achieved, and somehow I just stepped into their orbit. "Okay," I whispered. "Okay." Minho's thumb brushed over my knuckles once before he released my hand. "Get some rest," he said. "Tomorrow we start hunting." I nodded, but I didn't move. Couldn't move. The adrenaline that had been keeping me upright drained all at once, leaving me swaying. Seojin was there before I could fall, his hand steady on my elbow. "I'll walk you back. I can walk myself." "I know, but you don't have to." That simple truth cracked something in my chest. I let him guide me down the hall, let Jamin press a bottle of water into my hand with a soft "drink this." Let Hyunwoo's quiet "sleep well" settle over me like a blanket. When I finally collapsed onto the too-soft bed, I was asleep before my head hit the pillow. And for the first time in 9 years, I slept without nightmares. Want to know what happens next? Hit that subscribe button, because when Jiho wakes up, he's about to discover that being part of the Choi pack comes with benefits and dangers he never imagined. Don't miss it. I woke to sunlight streaming through windows I didn't recognize, and the smell of coffee I definitely hadn't made. For half a second, panic seized me. Wrong bed, wrong room, wrong life. Then memory crashed back. The club, the note, 4 alphas and a confession that should have gotten me killed but somehow hadn't. I dragged myself upright, my borrowed clothes rumpled, my hair a disaster. My phone said it was 9 in the morning. I'd slept for almost 7 hours straight. 7 hours without waking once to check the locks, scan for threats, or relocate because the walls felt too close. Actual rest. When was the last time I'd had that? A soft knock interrupted my existential crisis. "Jiho?" Seojin's voice. "Breakfast is ready, whenever you are." No pressure, no command, just an invitation. I climbed out of bed, splashed water on my face in the marble bathroom that was nicer than my entire apartment, and ventured out. The penthouse looked different in daylight. Less intimidating, more lived-in. There were books on the shelves, actual books that had been read, a pair of running shoes by the door, a coffee mug on the counter with a faded university logo. The Choi pack lived here. This wasn't just a showroom. It was home. I found them in the dining area. Seojin was plating what looked like a full Korean breakfast spread. Jamin was scrolling through his phone, still looking unfairly good despite the early hour. Hyunwoo sat reading a tablet, his silver rings catching morning light. Minho stood by the window, phone pressed to his ear, his voice low and clipped. He glanced up when I entered, his expression unreadable. "Sit," Jamin said, patting the chair beside him. "Seojin made enough food to feed an army." "I wasn't sure what you liked," Seojin said, setting a bowl of rice in front of me. "So I made options." Options turned out to be grilled mackerel, rolled omelet, kimchi, 3 types of banchan, and soup that smelled like heaven. "This is too much," I protested weakly. "Eat anyway." Jamin pushed chopsticks into my hand. "You barely touched dinner last night." I ate, mostly because it was easier than arguing, but also because it was incredible. Minho finished his call and joined us, his presence shifting the energy in the room. "We have a problem." Of course we did. "Define problem," I said around a mouthful of omelet. "The security footage from last night, it's gone." I set down my chopsticks. "Gone how?" "Wiped," Hyunwoo said, not looking up from his tablet. "Professionally. Every camera in Club Aurora went dark between 10:15 and midnight. No record of Junho, no record of the bottle, no record of you." Convenient, I muttered. Too convenient. Minho's jaw tightened. Someone with high-level access deleted it remotely, which means the threat isn't external. The implications settled over the table like frost. You think someone in your organization helped them? I said. I know someone did. Minho's eyes went hard. The question is who? Sojin set down his coffee. We've already run background checks on everyone with system access. Nothing unusual flagged. Background checks don't catch everything, I pointed out. People can be clean on paper and dirty in practice, especially if they're being blackmailed or bribed. Can you? Jamin gestured vaguely at his head. I understood immediately. Read your entire security team's minds? No, that's dozens of people. I'd have a brain hemorrhage before I got through half of them. What about targeted scans? Hunmu leaned forward, interested. If we narrow down suspects based on access and opportunity, could you verify their intentions? The idea made my skin crawl. Mass telepathy was exhausting and ethically questionable. But if it meant stopping whoever wanted these four dead, maybe, I admitted, but I'd need to be close, in the same room, and they can't know what I'm doing, or they'll guard their thoughts. We have a staff meeting this afternoon, Minho said. Mandatory attendance for all department heads. You'll be there. As what? Your pet telepath? As my consultant. His tone left no room for argument. We'll introduce you as a security analyst. No one needs to know what you actually do. And if I find something, then we deal with it. The coldness in his voice promised that dealing with it would not be pleasant for whoever was on the receiving end. The meeting was scheduled for 2. That gave me 5 hours to mentally prepare for the psychic equivalent of running a marathon. I spent most of it in the library I discovered off the main living area, trying to center myself. Meditation techniques I'd learned from a YouTube video 6 years ago. Breathing exercises that barely worked. Anything to reinforce my mental shields before I had to drop them. Jamin found me there around noon, sitting cross-legged on the floor with my eyes closed. You okay? He asked softly. Peachy. I didn't open my eyes. Just preparing to invade the privacy of a dozen strangers and potentially destroy their lives if they're guilty. Heavy stuff. You have no idea. He sat down, beside me close enough that I could feel his warmth. For what it's worth, I think you're brave. Doing this. Helping us. I'm not brave. I'm trapped. You could have said no. Could I? I finally looked at him. You four don't exactly take no for an answer. His smile was rueful. Fair point, but still, you're choosing to do this. That counts for something. Maybe it did, or maybe I was just so tired of running that standing still felt like courage. The staff meeting was held in a conference room 3 floors down, accessible only by private elevator. 18 people filed in, a mix of security personnel, IT specialists, and department managers. I sat beside Minho at the head of the table, trying to look professional and not like someone about to commit mass telepathic invasion. Thank you all for coming, Minho began. I'd like to introduce Jiho. He'll be conducting a security audit over the next few weeks. Polite nods. AEU, few curious glances. One man in the back whose thoughts suddenly spiked with panic. Got you. I didn't react, just smiled blandly and let Minho continue his briefing about protocol updates and system improvements. But I dropped my shield slowly, carefully, and reached for the panicking man's mind. They know? Oh God, they know. Stay calm. Act natural. If I can just get through this meeting. His name was Taekwon, mid-30s, IT security specialist, and his surface thoughts were a screaming confession. The money's already in my account. Junho promised no one would get hurt. Just delete the footage, he said. Easy money. But now Junho's dead, and I'm next. I'm so dead. I have to run. I have to. Jiho? Minho's voice snapped me back. I realized I'd gone rigid, my knuckles white against the table edge. Him, I whispered, tilting my head fractionally toward Taekwon. Back row, 3rd from the left. Minho's expression didn't change, but Seojin, standing by the door, shifted his position, blocking the exit. Taekwon, Minho said pleasantly, stay after the meeting. I have some questions about last night's system logs. Taekwon's face went ashen, and I knew we'd found our traitor. The meeting dissolved in polite murmurs and shuffling papers. People filed out, oblivious to the tension thrumming beneath the professional veneer. Taekwon remained frozen in his seat, his panic so loud in my mind I had to grit my teeth against it. When the last person left, Seojun closed the door with a soft, final click. The sound made Taekwon flinch. "I didn't know," he blurted before Minho could speak. "I swear I didn't know anyone would die. Junho said it was just insurance. Just a precaution. Delete the footage. Take the money. No one gets hurt. How much?" Hyunwoo's voice was silk over razors. 5 million won. Taekwon's hands shook. "My daughter needs surgery. The insurance won't cover it." I was desperate. I felt the truth of it, the genuine desperation mixed with crushing guilt. He wasn't a monster, just a father who'd made a catastrophically bad choice. "Who approached you?" Minho asked, his tone deceptively calm. "Junho, 3 days ago. He said he represented investors who wanted to pressure you into a merger. That deleting the footage would just embarrass you, make you look vulnerable." Taekwon's voice cracked. "I didn't know it was a hit. I swear on my daughter's life." Minho studied him for a long moment, then surprisingly, his expression softened. "Where is your daughter being treated?" "Asen Medical Center, Pediatric Cardiac Unit." "Hyunwoo." Minho didn't look away from Taekwon. "Contact the hospital. Make sure her surgery is fully covered. Best surgeons available." Taekwon's head snapped up, hope and disbelief warring on his face. "What?" "Your daughter shouldn't suffer for your mistakes." Minho's voice remained even. "But you're done here. Resign quietly, take severance, and disappear. If I ever see you again, mercy won't be on the table." It was brutal kindness, a second chance with teeth. "Thank you," Taekwon whispered, tears streaming down his face. "Thank you." Seojun escorted him out. The door closed again, leaving the five of us in weighted silence. "You let him go," I said, still processing. "I let his daughter live," Minho corrected. "There's a difference." "That was—" I searched for words. "Unexpectedly decent of you," Jamin snorted. "Don't let it fool you. He's still terrifying." "I contain multitudes," Minho said dryly. Then his gaze settled on me, and the intensity made my breath catch. "You did well. Reading him that quickly, that accurately. How do you feel?" Like my brain had been put through a blender, but I wasn't about to admit weakness. "I've had worse hangovers." "Liar." But his lips twitched, almost a smile. "We still don't know who hired Junho," Hyunwoo pointed out, already typing on his phone. "Taekwon was just a pawn. But now we have a thread to pull." Minho's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and something dangerous flickered across his face. And it just got interesting. Junho's bank records just came through. 3 deposits over the last month, all from the same shell corporation. "Let me guess," he said. "Untraceable?" "Almost." Hyunwoo's smile was sharp. "The corporation is registered in Singapore, but the secondary account holder made a mistake. Used his personal email as backup contact. One Kim Sang-woo." The name hit me like ice water. My shields dropped involuntarily, and I gasped as a rush of memories flooded in. Not mine. Someone else's. Fragmented images from Minho's mind, bleeding through at the sound of that name. Kim Sang-woo, business partner. 10 years ago. Betrayal. Blood. A deal gone wrong. Minho's younger brother, barely 20, caught in the crossfire. I slammed my shields back up, but the damage was done. I'd seen it, felt it. "Jiho?" Jamin's hand on my shoulder steadying. "What's wrong?" "Kim Sang-woo," I whispered, looking at Minho. "He killed your brother." The room went deadly still. Minho's expression didn't change, but his eyes blazed with something ancient and furious. "Stay out of my head." "I didn't mean to. The name, it triggered something. Your emotions were too strong. They just—" I trailed off, helpless. "Everyone out," Minho said quietly. Yunwoo hesitated. "Hyung, out." They left. Jamin squeezed my shoulder once before following. The door closed. And then it was just me and a very dangerous alpha whose mind I just violated. "I'm sorry," I said immediately. "I didn't mean to see that. I would never—" "I know." He moved toward me, each step measured. But now you understand why this isn't just business. He wants revenge for something. Something you did to him after your brother died. I destroyed his empire. Systematically, methodically. Left him with nothing but debts and enemies. Minho stopped in front of me. I thought it was enough. That he'd learned his lesson. Clearly not. Clearly. His hand came up, cupping my jaw the way he had last night. But this time, the touch lingered. Gentle. You saw my worst memory, my greatest failure, and you're still here. Where else would I be? Running. Anyone with sense would be running from me. Good thing I've never had much sense. The words came out softer than intended. Something shifted in his expression. The cold alpha mask cracked, revealing the man underneath. Grieving, angry, lonely. Jiho, he murmured, and my name and his voice did things to my heartbeat that were medically inadvisable. Yeah? I'm going to kiss you now. If you don't want that, say so. My brain short-circuited. What? Say no and I'll step back. Say yes and I won't. This was insane. We'd known each other less than 24 hours. He was a crime lord. I was a telepath who just invaded his most painful memory. Every rational thought I possessed screamed that this was a terrible idea. Yes, I whispered anyway. His lips met mine, and the world stopped. It wasn't gentle. It was claiming, possessive, a declaration of intent. His hands slid from my jaw to tangle in my hair, angling my head for better access. I gasped against his mouth, and he took advantage, deepening the kiss until I couldn't tell where I ended, and he began. My shields dissolved. His emotions poured through. Want, need, protection, something deeper that scared us both. Mine, his mind whispered. Safe. Keep. Mine. I should have been terrified. Instead, I fisted my hands in his shirt and pulled him closer. When we finally broke apart, we were both breathing hard. His forehead rested against mine, his eyes dark and burning. This complicates things, I managed. Everything about you complicates things. His thumb traced my swollen bottom lip. I'm keeping you anyway. Possessive much? You have no idea. The door burst open. Yamin stood there, phone in hand, his expression urgent. We found him. Kim Sang-woo. He's at a charity gala tonight in Gangnam, and he's not alone. Minho straightened, the mask sliding back into place, but his hand found mine, lacing our fingers together. Then we're going to a party, he said, and just like that, the hunt was on. The gala was exactly the kind of place I hated. Too many people, too many minds pressing against my shields like waves against a seawall. Crystal chandeliers, designer gowns, alphas in $1,000 suits playing at civilization while their thoughts screamed. Violence and greed. But I wasn't alone this time. Minho's hand rested on the small of my back as we moved through the crowd, a constant anchor. Hyun-woo and Seo-jun flanked us like shadows in expensive tailoring. Jamin had disappeared into the crowd, his easy smile disarming everyone he passed. We looked like we belonged, just another pack at another fundraiser. There, Hyun-woo murmured, nodding toward the bar. Kim Sang-woo stood surrounded by sycophants, holding court like a king. Mid-50s, silver hair, a smile that didn't reach his eyes. He raised his glass in a toast, laughing at something someone said. I dropped my shields just enough to catch the surface of his thoughts. Choi brats should be dead by now. Junho was supposed to be competent. No matter. Plan B is already in motion. By midnight, their entire organization will be... He has a backup plan, I whispered urgently. Something happening at midnight. Minho's jaw tightened. Seo-jun, get our security team on alert. Full lockdown protocol. Seo-jun melted into the crowd, phone already at his ear. What else? Minho's voice was low, controlled, but I could feel the fury radiating from him. I pushed deeper into Sang-woo's mind, past the surface thoughts into the ugly truth beneath. And what I found made my blood run cold. He's been planning this for 2 years, I breathed. Ever since you destroyed his business, he's not just coming after you, he's targeting everyone you've ever protected. The youth centers you fund, the shelters, the rehabilitation programs. He's planted people in all of them. When? Minho's control was fracturing, his alpha presence pressing against my senses like a gathering storm. Midnight. Coordinated attacks. He wants to destroy everything you've built, make you watch it burn. Minho's hand clenched into a fist. For a moment I thought he'd shift right there in the middle of the gala. Consequences be damned. Then Yamin's voice crackled through the concealed earpiece Minho wore. Got something. His phone. Cloned the data while he was distracted. Sending locations to Hyunwoo now. Hyunwoo's fingers flew across his phone. 12 locations. I'm dispatching teams to all of them. Will they get there in time? I asked. They will, Minho said with absolute certainty, because Sangwoo is going to call off the attacks himself. I looked at him. How? His smile was predatory. You're going to help me convince him. 5 minutes later, we'd cornered Sangwoo in a private gallery off the main ballroom. Seojun stood guard at the door. Hyunwoo had done something with the security cameras. Jaemin's easy smile had turned sharp as broken glass. Sangwoo's composure cracked when he saw us. Minho, what a pleasant surprise. Cut the act. Minho's voice was arctic cold. I know about Midnight. I know about the attacks. And I know you're the one who hired Junho. Sangwoo's laugh was brittle. You can't prove anything. I don't need proof. Minho stepped closer. I have something better. I have him. He gestured to me. Sangwoo's gaze slid over me dismissively. Your new pet, Omega? How touching. This Omega, I said, letting my own alpha presence leak through. Yes, I could do that. Could make people feel the weight of my gift. Can hear every thought in your head, every plan, every name, every location. Sangwoo went pale. You're bluffing. Am I? I tilted my head. You're thinking about your daughter right now. Minji. She's studying abroad in London, isn't she? Art history at King's College. You're worried she'll find out what you've done, that she'll hate you for it. The color drained from his face completely. Call it off, Minho said quietly. All of it. Every attack, every operative, every plan you've set in motion, or I'll destroy you so completely that even your daughter won't remember your name. And if I refuse, I stepped forward, dropping my shields completely, and projected every ounce of psychic pressure I could muster directly into his mind. His knees buckled. Then I'll make you, I said softly. I can reach into your mind and pull every secret, every crime, every betrayal you've ever committed. I can plant suggestions you won't even know are there. I can make you confess everything to the police, or I can just make you forget how to breathe. I couldn't actually do most of that, but he didn't need to know that. Sangwoo collapsed into a chair, pulling out his phone with shaking hands. Fine, fine. I'll call it off. We watched as he made the calls. One by one, the attacks were canceled. The operatives stood down. By 11:30, Hyunwoo confirmed that all locations were secure. Now disappear, Minho said. Leave Korea, take your daughter and go somewhere I'll never have to see your face again. Because if you ever come back, if you ever threaten what's mine again, I won't be merciful a second time. Sangwoo fled like the coward he was. And just like that, it was over. We stood in the empty gallery, the sounds of the gala muffled beyond the walls. The adrenaline was draining away, leaving me shaky and exhausted. You okay? Jaemin asked, steadying me. Yeah, just tired. You did good, Seojun said quietly. Really good. Minho's hand found mine again. You saved a lot of lives tonight. We saved them, I corrected. I couldn't have done this alone. No, Hyunwoo agreed, his smile genuine for once. But neither could we. The ride back to the penthouse was quiet, content, safe. When we arrived, Minho pulled me aside while the others headed inside. I meant what I said earlier, he murmured. I'm keeping you. All four of you. Raised an eyebrow. Because I've been picking up some pretty intense feelings from the others too. His lips twitched. We're a pack. We share everything. Everything? If you'll have us. I looked up at him, at this complicated, dangerous, unexpectedly decent alpha who'd somehow become my safe harbor in less than 48 hours. Then I looked past him at the others waiting in the doorway. Jaemin with his bright smile, Hyunwoo with his sharp intelligence, Seojun with his quiet strength. 4 alphas who'd seen my worst secret and chosen protection over exploitation. who'd given me safety, purpose, and something I'd thought I'd lost forever. Belonging. Yeah, I said, grinning. I'll have you, all of you. But I have conditions. Name them. No more kidnapping. No more decisions about my life without asking me first. And someone needs to teach me how to actually use this telepathy thing without getting brain hemorrhages. Done, done, and I know someone, Minho said. Then he leaned down and kissed me again, softer this time, a promise instead of a claim. When we finally made it inside, Jamin had already ordered enough food to feed an army. Seojun was brewing tea. Hyunwoo was typing away on his laptop, probably securing every possible threat in a 10-mile radius. It felt like home. So, I said, settling onto the couch between Yaemin and Seojun, while Minho and Hyunwoo argued good-naturedly about security protocols. What exactly does being part of this pack entail? Jamin's grin turned wicked. Well, for starters, and for the first time in 9 years, I let my shields drop completely. Let myself feel the warmth of four minds that wanted nothing more than to keep me safe, happy, and theirs. I'd slipped them a note telling them not to drink poison. They'd pulled me into their world instead. Best decision I'd ever made. Thank you so much for watching until the end. Well, you love Jiho and the Choi Pack story, smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you never miss our next thrilling omegaverse tale. We've got more passionate alphas, sassy omegas, dangerous secrets, and happy endings coming your way. Drop a comment below telling us your favorite moment. Was it the poison drink, the telepathy reveal, or that first kiss? We love hearing from you. Until next time, stay wild, stay safe, and remember, sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is save someone's life.